at least your idea of the ideal, like the guidelines, there's a very clear like opening and warming up, transition, date, flow that everyone has their own rules with.
I mean, the only rule that I would say is hard and fast is don't be like every other guy. Because if they
stand out for sure.
Stand out, but not in some crazy douchey fuckboy way. Stand out in a way that makes you classy, yet seem like that's something more that nobody else is offering. So seem like the boyfriend that nobody else is trying to be. So, how do you do that, Nick?
I think one of the best ways I learned to do that was to pretty much make them laugh, make them interested somehow, and then just set it up and go meet.
I mean, I would say that that's just basic as fuck advice, but I mean, you just put it in a nutshell. Like, taking out all uniqueness on what to do, how to do it, etc. Like, you basically just put a 3-step label on how to do it. So you open it up. How do you open it up?
Here's an example. You open up with something short and to the point, and really, you're going to have to gauge what type of woman you're actually getting involved with.
So you're tailoring your approach.
Well, yeah. I mean, to a degree.
You do that with women in real life anyways.
I think it would work.
I'm like breaching that as that's what you need to do.
I think to a degree, but I think honestly your approach should be able to work on almost any woman. In the sense that, you know, there's some words that, you know, instead of red, you put blue. You know, that type of thing. But it's mostly, okay, hey, one great thing that I learned is to never show interest in them, but to say something funny or silly that they would be like, okay, that's just silly. Like, why would this person say that? So you open with, oh, hey, I found this half-eaten sandwich. Do you want to go on a date and eat some of it with me or something like that? You know, something silly.
Sounds terrible.
It's terrible, but it's silly. You have to have something silly, because if you don't have something silly, it's
like,
worthless.
It gets too heavy. It gets monotonous. It's like It's like heavyweight motor oil in the wintertime.
Well,
it's just like a bitch.
One thing that you're overlooking with that approach is it's a simultaneous. It's actually really clever. It's a simultaneous pickup approach and a weed out approach.
Because if they're not down,
right?
Get the fuck out.
If you don't think what I'm doing is funny, then you're not funny and you're boring, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. And that's a huge, because you'll end up wasting so much time with a girl who's just, she's either out to rape you for some beers and food, or she's just a totally shit person. Like, I'll take your looks for what they're worth, but if I'm just completely bored, you
could be a tenant and get the fuck out. You're fucking stupid.
Feel like work after a while. Like, I'm a jester for your evening. I don't want to be that. Like, this is for me as much as it is for you.
Absolutely. And my bio is built in a way that should have weeded out the dumbasses already. Because, like,
your bio is a level 1, and like this opening is the.
So you
I'm just bringing it back to, they don't match with me if they don't think I'm funny.
Sure.
Because I'm bringing that same personality to the table. So it's like driving that bio back through.
Right.
And then we're back in the conversation.
To your point, though, of tailoring, you have to say something funny, get their attention. And if you have their attention, you'll notice, I wish I wanted to do this, but I kind of wanted to take some data as to, like, okay, the amount of time surpassed between each response should start to decrease with interest increasing. So as you move on, you'll start to, it'll be ping, 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 and then eventually you lead up to, okay, let's meet up. So in doing that, it's the first layer is, okay, yeah, I'm attracted to you, match. Second layer is, yeah, I'm intelligent and I can say witty things. I'm going to be interesting if we meet. Mm-hmm. And then they agree that you're interesting, and then they agree to meet. once you meet, to me, it's almost a given to some degree. I've had meets that didn't go so well because I think the expectations weren't matched. It wasn't.
We got to talk about that expectation a little.
We can. But after we meet and we get to the point of, okay, this has been fun. We're having a good time. It's either, ends in a makeout session or even sex, whatever. Overall, I think that's sort of the systematic approach of having it, of how this works is interest on a very superficial level. I think you're attractive. Interest in, okay, you're not going to be totally fucking boring when we meet, and then you're also sexually attractive because there's this push-pull in interaction, which that's a whole different level. That's a whole different story. But once you have that stuff, it's complete. It's done. You don't have to really do anything else. I mean, in my opinion,
you've got like everything past that point. Like you set it up to make a great foundation for the house that we've talked about in like episodes past. Like you've started to put the foundation together, and then you start putting the walls on it. Like that's your progression of events. So, not to segue too much, but all right, say that this thing is flatlining. When do you stop? When do you let them stop? When do you just back the fuck off and say, all right, this is bad? You guys are a lot more like, cut and dry clothes than I would be. Because, if it just happens to be a bad day or whatever.
You can scrounge for scraps and make a meal out of it more often than we can. I'm looking for big bites, especially on a site like Tinder and Bumble. I'll scrounge for scraps in real life, just grabbing at thin air sometimes, but if I'm not getting like positive feedback on regularly, I lose interest sometimes before they do. Mm-hmm. It's like I can fry bigger fish. It's a balancing act for me. If I'm talking to two girls or I have 2 or 3 matches and I'm talking to a handful of them and one of them is fading, my effort is more valuable. My effort is more valuable in the next one.
It's a time capital trade-off.
I can get the next one with less effort and time than I can trying to salvage whatever this has become. And whatever it's become is partially my fault sometimes, but I'm gonna cut it loose as soon as I start seeing it as dead weight.
I think so. One thing I wanted to say is the best thing that these dating sites and things like that have given me is experience. And when I started, I'll never forget.
And fast way, it's giving you an experience.
Oh, Jesus, dude, I'll never forget.
Exponential experience.
Here's where this is the person that you're talking to is when I started. I got on a dating site called Zeus, which is like one of the beginning dating apps. That was like it turned out to just be like a scam that some foreign dudes
created. They charge you money or some shit for messages,
they
right?
charged all
Such
sorts
garbage.
of stupid shit.
Doesn't OkCupid do that too for like exclusive access?
No, but you gotta pay for certain like desire, like who liked you this week? You gotta pay for that shit.
They also do something where you can like get seen more, so they'll do a boost thing that you can pay for. But anyway, my point is, this is where I started. Is I got on there. And immediately I started realizing there's some fucking hot girls on here. Holy shit. Now, you were allowed to message. And the messages that you could send was like pretty much very simple. It was only and it was only like a certain amount of characters. I remember seeing this like super fly girl. And I started sending like...
Was she real?
Really short I have no idea. Because at the time I was so naive. But I even sent like individual messages. I sent like my phone number, 7 send, 2 7 0 send, and like I did. I just remember like super desperate, coming off super desperate, and that's where I started. But through that experience of like, okay, so that didn't work. And that's probably one of the greatest things that this thing could have, that these dating sites and stuff could have given me, was just learned experience. So I went from that to eventually going on dates. During the dates, I realized...
Still on Zeus.
Just whatever. It doesn't matter. Afterwards, I got on all sorts of different stuff.
You're accelerating your exposure, your experience to this kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
You're sending. Okay, so if you're not doing this, you're only sending one message, or you're only having conversations with one girl a day. But when you get online dating, you're messaging 10 girls a day. Like, you cut the learning curve way down. That is valuable as shit.
It is valuable. And one thing that is even more valuable is finally getting even some girls who, I mean, we're talking like 12, 13 on the 30 scale. You're going out with some of these girls, partially because they just got giant titties, you know. And I would go with, like, I remember going on a date to a bowling alley, and like just hanging out with this girl.
Sounds 1950s
and then,
as fuck.
Super fucking lame. And then, you know, never hearing from him again. And then, you know, trying to figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What was it? A lot of it has to do with this mentality that I think a lot of men are growing up with of, we have to be nice. We have to be nice. We can't overstep our bounds with these women.
Stop that shit.
Yeah. And that took a long time to cut out, which is funny because there's the Red Pill, which is a site on Reddit. And I noticed that there's a lot of dudes that are going through the same experience that I had, where it's going on these dates, but not realizing that women aren't attracted to men who are nice and hold the door open and say nice things and are polite. No, they want the complete opposite because they don't want
your... Hold the door, but smack her ass on the way through.
They don't want your validation right away.
It's boring for them. They get that daily. So for you just to be another one of those guys... it's just another day in the life of a hot woman.
So the moment you compliment them or acknowledge that they're attractive, it's over. And so that was a lot of the learning process through these dating sites, was figuring out, okay, they don't want you to give it up immediately. So with women, as a man, I don't want women to give up sex immediately. I like a nice game where there's some tension and stuff.
It is the perfect compliment. You giving up your nice guy facade is them giving up pussy the minute you meet them.
It's so true. So if some girl came up to me and was like, "You want to have sex?" I'd be like, "Ew, gross! No, get away from me." But when some dude shows up to a girl and says, "Oh, you're so attractive, you're so pretty, you must get compliments all the time," she's like, "Ew, gross, get away from me."
Same thing as like do you just want to have sex with me? See, now I'll go on a date, I'll hold the door for the girl, and I'll do all those like nice guy kind of things. Not all of them, but just enough to like
what you do with
that
the skew.
base level of like being a decent fucking person.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got your, you know, you've got your play, you've got your, you know, witty banter, you've got your just that little bit of edginess to drive that interest. And so you'll be that mix of good guy that is, you know, still that edginess that they're looking, or not necessarily looking for, but they're enjoying when they see it. So, you know, when what's your transition to get from, you know, the site, the app, the whatever, whether it be Zeus, OkCupid, Tinder, Bumble, name it, meet up, meet me, whatever the fuck that's called.
I've got a little different take on this than I used to. By the time I finished using Tinder and OkCupid, I was almost to the point where I just wanted to get a date set up almost at the same time I wanted to get their number. Because that transition to me is effectively the same thing. Because when you get their number, the next step is going to be date, and it should be a small step. Because if you get their number, they don't want a goddamn pen pal. They're not on dating sites for pen pals.
Of them are.
They
just want people to build up their ego, but don't be that guy.
Right, but if they're on there for pen pals, I'm going to try and weed them out before we get to that point.
Of course.
I'm going to weed out the pen pal bitches before we get to the I just need validation stage. So, like, by the end of Tinder, I was like, hey, after just a handful of messages, like, how do you feel about getting drinks here, when, and how? We kind of pseudo set the date up, and then I'm like, all right, well, give me your number. I'll text you, like, the detail, whatever. But it's been established when we get to that point. So you kind of cover two things in one, and you come across as confident, like, I know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, your training wheels are off, and they're not going to be going out with some guy who's a freshman in college and hasn't lost his virginity yet. The one thing I like doing is I like putting the girl on the spot. I can be the guy who determines where we go, what we do, blah, blah. Like, I can determine the date all day long. But what I like doing is I like putting the onus back on women. So it's like, especially on Bumble. For some reason, I get the better matches off Bumble because the quality is just a little bit better there.
I think we all do.
What I do is, I'll drag it out till the girl's like, so, or, like, I'll just drag it out until they'll be like, so, can I have your number? Be like, yeah, but this is Bumble, so you're going to message me first. Just the way that Bumble's built, because the girl has to message the guy. Here's my number. Or even if they'd be like, so text me, here's my number. You're like, no, bitch, this is Bumble. You first. And
that's a good play, because the rules don't apply the same way. Yeah.
And so they text me, and like we go. And I've never texted a girl off Bumble first, because I always play that card of, no, this is Bumble. You're on here for a reason because you want to message the guy first, and you want to have that little bit of power, and I'm forcing you to keep that power once we transition. And then when we we'll chat for a little bit, it'll be funny, witty banter, whatever, and then that progression, that very small step that you're talking about, we have that jump. And so we go from that to, all right, so what's our date look like?
Interesting.
And I'll put that onus back on them. It's, all right, so what's our date look like?
That's crazy.
Because I can sit there and make this shit up. I can put the date together. I can tell you what, where, when, hot, what, yeah. I can do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's always telling me, like, societally, we've built this shit up of guy does this, guy determines, no, fuck you. How's our date going to go?
Okay. No, that's fair. That's why I don't think I've had success on Bumble, because what I got really good at was being decisive. So one thing that I was really bad at was figuring...
This is feminist Tinder, dude.
Yeah.
Tinder for, girls, having that little bit of power,
you're right.
Messaging the guy first. But
not all of them up for that challenge.
No.
Even the hot ones who are on there in the first place is like, what are you doing on here if you're not going to say anything?
You tell them. You force their hand on that shit. You go, what are we doing?
No, but they don't even say anything in the first place, so you can't message them anyway.
Oh, do they match and let that shit expire?
I've had that
Whatever,
shit happen.
fuck them, I don't care.
You know what the other problem with Tinder and Bumble is? Alright, so I think there's all the single girls are on Tinder and Bumble.
Or married women.
Well, okay, that's what I'm getting to. So I don't think that there's very many women in relationships who are on these sites. There's a few, but there's not many. Would you... Everyone's going to be taking drags out of their noses now.
It's a good time, dude. It goes straight to your fucking dome, and it gets you high as fuck.
The next step...
It's fucking... sheesh, man.
Okay, so...
Anyway.
So I think there's only a small percentage of women in relationships and married who are on Tinder and Bumble, but every dude who's in a relationship is on Tinder and Bumble. So the ratio is skewed from the get-go.
I don't know what you mean by that.
I have a feeling that every dude with a girlfriend is on Tinder, but only 10% of girls with a boyfriend are on Tinder.
Except for when you're matching with her friends, you are not on Tinder.
I disagree. I'm not sure what you're getting at. If you have a girlfriend already, you're not on... Why would you be on Tinder? It doesn't make sense.
Boredom. What he's saying is that, like, guys who have girlfriends have that shit on, like, the third home screen on their phone, the one you got to swipe all the way right on, or it's a buried app that their girlfriend can't find, even if they know their password, blah, blah, blah.
Maybe.
Like, guys are still...
I don't think the majority of
what
people
I'm saying
on there.
is, in the long run, it's at least 2 dudes to every chick on Tinder. And as far as what they're seeing on their screen, it's 10 to 1. They're getting 10 matches for every 1 match the dudes are getting, So,
okay, that's fair. In terms of relationship status, I have no idea, and I don't
even care.
It's the same as what we've heard Patrice say. It's there's these women out there who think that dick is completely abundant because dudes who are out there who are married are still quote unquote hitting on them and flirting on them at the bus stop.
Well, I mean that's
women have a permanent abundance mentality. It's permanent, and that's why they're attractive to us. There's a challenge there.
We need to get that.
They have a level of disinterest that boggles us from the minute we meet them.
Okay, so I would say that they're not all the dudes are in relationships. Now, what I would say is that if you're a dude who's killing it on that, you're banging like 3 or 4 girls at the time.
Right, but serial monogamists are on Tinder, is what I'm saying. Married men. I've talked to...
so you're saying they're looking for a relationship.
They're just there to quote-unquote have fun or see what it's about. I've talked to mid-40s-year-old dudes who have been married for 15 years who were like, okay, I just got on Tinder to see what it's about. Stop fucking lying to me. I know what you're doing. If a gorgeous opportunity presents itself,
you're still gonna fuck it.
You're gonna not necessarily, but you're gonna chase it down the rabbit hole to follow some kind of past missed emotional connection that you lost when you were in your 20s.
I don't know
I've
if
seen
that's
this
true.
shit.
Well, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. But what I will contest the fact that you saying it's very prevalent in the sense that it's the majority. It's not. It's not the majority, that's for sure.
Oh, it's not the majority, but
it happens for sure.
For
Absolutely,
girls, it's a fucking minefield. As far as married men go, or men in relationships, or etc.
I see. Okay.
Girls find a lot more. There's a lot more guys in relationships on Tinder than there are going to be girls in relationships on Tinder.
Yes, that's a good way of
that's what he's getting at.
That I could agree with. Yeah.
Because those people exist. Those people who are on Tinder, they have a very limited profile. They want to chat you up. They want to meet, but it's going to be on some off night, odd hour, whatever.
12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Hit you up because boyfriend's out of town. That's exactly it. Yeah. They're fucking with you because they're trying to fuck, or they're trying to see what's out there. And
right, and the way they justify it is always so predictable. It's like, I gotta see what this is about. What if you were in a quote unquote happy marriage? You don't give a shit what the kids are all into. No. That's an excuse you use for yourself.
You're trying to get away from stagnation.
That's
in
an
your
entirely different conversation.
But it comes all the way back around to the selection that women have is so much different than the selection men have.
Mm-hmm. Because men will we've talked about this, a ton in the last however many casts. It's just listen, men have to try so much harder. Women, they just have an off chance swipe and okay, we matched. And hell, women will sit there and bitch about having to swipe on, every swipe they have, they get a match. And women don't have to try near as hard. There's less work in it for women. Because all women have to do is sit there and swipe right on some guy, and literally half their work's done for them. So you joke with a girl.
Let's break this stuff down. So, I think, Trevor, you probably have the best success on Bumble.
Because I enjoy because Tinder's full of bullshit chaff.
Okay. So I've probably had the best success on Tinder, I would say.
Okay.
I'm not sure about...
I've been pretty picky, and I also have very small patience for that shit. So I think we can agree on that.
Okay, so my point is, let's break it down to these different dating sites. So Bumble, you could probably speak the best about it.
I can speak with Bumble because I find more substance. I don't necessarily get more matches on either one of out of those two. What I do find, because the structure of Bumble. Because women need to initiate the conversation to start the whole bullshit.
Okay,
that leads to
so let's say you were giving advice to someone who was on Bumble. What would you tell them to do?
Well, let's start with why Bumble. I think we can all agree that Bumble is a more formidable site than any of them. When women sacrifice that ability to have the first line, that's a huge they need to cross that barrier. They're entering. Let's bring it full circle. They swiped right and they're starting a conversation, so they are voluntarily entering your arena.
Like we talked about earlier.
Stage 1, and take it from there.
Okay.
Okay, so they've already started playing your game. They've messaged you first, and they either open with a stupid fucking meme, or they message just hey or something. You can take that in any one of 100 different directions. You joke with women, and I was going to talk about this a second ago. It's you joke with women about oh, so Bumble is the feminist Tinder, which is why half the women are on it, because they have the power. Otherwise, they're just getting harassed by men. On Tinder, men start the conversation so much of the time, unless you're a desperate-ass woman. And what I've seen is women who initiate the conversation on Tinder are the ones who are sitting there just trying way too fucking hard, janky as fuck, whatever. Those are not the women who come across on Tinder, especially when you match and you get the notification that they've messaged you before you've got the notification of the match. The ones who message you within those 5 seconds. Oh my god, I matched with you. Oh my god,
and it's always hey.
Or hey,
hi.
with
hi.
Or a stupid fucking joke.
How are you?
Some bullshit. And whatever. So you can sit there and try. Tinder is has a male slant on it, not by design, but by like the construct that sits around it. So women view Tinder as the men are going to initiate, and there's almost an expectation, like almost a hard expectation, that women wait for the man to say something, because if they want to say something first, they'll be on Bumble.
Okay, so but for Bumble then.
Okay.
So what do you do right? What do you do that works?
Okay. So the substance I find on Bumble is less of the I just want to get fucked to the I'm looking for something more. And I'm that guy. Now, I know you guys play a similar yet different game, but it's, in black and white from the shit I pull. So I find success on Bumble because I always come across as that guy who is something more. Like, women ask me all the fucking time, you look like some guy who should be in a relationship. You look like some guy who, like, I give them the idea that I'm some sort of fucking unicorn sitting out there. And women will ask me, like, why are you on here? Like, you should be in a relationship. You should be married. You should have kids. Like, that stable.
And at that point, you won.
Oh, dude, we're, like, not even focusing on that bit, because I already know I've won. Is, that stable, solid guy that they can call on, rely on, that, like, knight in shining armor, you come across as that guy who can be that something more. They can call on a late night, like, whatever. You come across as that guy that they've been looking for, the one that is potential boyfriend material, something that could be so much more. You come across as having that substance. Bumble, by construct, breeds that substance. So the women who are on there, the ones who are going to initiate first, etc., are the looking for that something more, and I'm that something more on Bumble. And so that's why I've had miles more success on Bumble than I would ever have on Tinder. Actually, those same girls that are like that same type of women are looking for on Bumble, the type that I find on Tinder, like, are those same type of women who could be something more. Now, I always come across, unless their bio or whatever is just like, I just want to get fucked. But you can even take that girl and make it seem like you're that something more that could be more than just a 1 or 2 time thing. You're always looking like that something more. And there's that key. Like, you're not some fuckboy. You're not some guy with a fucking, 30 rack of beer on his head, staring at, whatever, just, like, taking pictures with his shirt off, acting like a huge fuck ass. You can look like that guy, but you gotta have the substance to back it up, to be like, I have a fun side, yet I'm something entirely serious, stable, etc., that women are looking for, because there's that rock.
So there you go. So
You're not
Bumble
some
is
flake.
more of show women that you might be potential for a relationship.
No, you not might be. You are the potential for that relationship.
Okay.
So you're driving that home. You don't want to seem like some fuckboy on Bumble.
Okay.
You can still have the same level of success. It'd be Tinder level of success, because those women exist on there. When Bumble first started becoming popular, like, there was this, like, short period of time there where Bumble had just gold on it, because it was hot women looking for something more, who, and their type was, I'm looking for something, and, like, actually trying to substantiate, like, what they were looking for. And you see that time and time again, but now Bumble's starting to get diluted, and the bitches off Tinder who are hearing from their friends, or, wherever they're getting their information of, Bumble is where I get so much more success. The girls off Tinder who are just trying to get a fucking dinner and fuck out of the deal are going over to Bumble and diluting the fuck out of it.
Well, okay.
So the question is, what's the new Bumble?
That's a different.
Oh, it's totally something
discussion.
different. But you're looking for something that has that same construct, that builds that same, like, type of woman that you have an actual connection with, that you can have a good time with, and, have great, whether it be sex or whatever, have that great connection, great time, great, everything. I've had that tenfold over Tinder. And, like, I'm still on Tinder because, it's garbage, but every now and then I come across something that's worthwhile. But I'm looking for the next Bumble. And that's something we'll breach on later, about what the next app is that has something that takes those women that left Tinder for Bumble. Now I want the women that left those apps.
Personally, I've seen women on both at the same time.
I've matched with women on both apps.
Now I do realize that a lot of women, and I've talked to them specifically about Bumble, they don't like initiating the talk, because they don't like that power.
That puts them out there.
So that's great. And that's great. So you can use Bumble for that kind of filter.
Oh, absolutely. But I use Bumble, just like we were talking about earlier, because they're on there for a reason. They're doing their best. They're they're putting themselves out there, and it's the feminist Tinder, so they're very selective on who they say hey to, or it's still fucking an online app. You can hide behind that
Absolutely.
level of like shroud that exists on all those apps.
Sure.
But what I want from a woman is to initiate a hey, how's it going conversation, or something that leads to a substantive conversation, because
Sure.
that hey, I'm good, like that very shallow bullshit conversation, I have no interest in.
Yeah.
I really have, like, if you're wanting to talk to me about something that matters, like, don't talk to me about the election, don't talk to me about bullshit in the Middle East, but talk to me about something that will engage me, and you'll have my attention.
So let's put it like this. So
That goes for both ways.
Bumble is a place for women who know more about what they want versus women on Tinder who, personally, I've seen that are just kind of aimless in what they're doing. I've seen a lot of women on Tinder who, one, I've actually gone on dates with them, are new to town. They're new to town.
That's the easy
and
route.
Also, they have no idea what they want. So they're trying to figure it out.
I've been on Bumble and Tinder dates with that type more than a couple times. And I mean, I've had more success than not, depending on how I know town. But effectively, they're using you as a tour guide that may or may not have a dick attached. So like, oh, I'm new to town. Can you kind of show me around? First, that's a ploy. That's a trap. You're going to end up spending money, and you better be understanding of that before you jump on
I'm not going
that.
there with that. I'm just trying to say the gist of what is the thing that you're using to try to get pussy, and how do you go about it in order to have success on it?
With the girl who's just new in town?
No, just in general. So what you're saying is that Bumble is more of a place where if you're a guy, you get on there and you kind of force the woman to utilize the power of conversation and initiation to get your attention, and then from there you can take it. Now, is that not?
Boil that down into like a question form. Like,
Well, it doesn't need to be a question. I mean, that's what I'm getting at. Is that what I'm trying to do right now is trying to designate what these different apps are for and how you can utilize them.
they're all for the same thing. It's that social interaction that's going to lead to more. Tinder has the I'm going to hook up. Bumble has the I'm looking for a relationship
There you
vibe
go.
to it.
I don't know. I think Tinder is almost a lost cause at this point. It's
Well,
too-
that's at this point. I'm just saying in general what it can be for.
But what you're going in and expect, like what your expectations should be going in, I feel like Tinder is almost a lost cause. Bumble still has some value.
Maybe.
If I go in on a date and a girl is, depending on which app I picked her up on, there's a little bit of a notion that, like, if I'm picking a Tinder girl up, like, I'm going to treat this a little bit more shallow, a little bit more face-to-face, a little bit less on the whole, what is this, where's it going bullshit. Like, I'm not going to treat it like that. I'm going to treat it more as tonight as opposed to this week, this month, where's this going kind of shit. A Bumble girl, on the other hand, I play a longer game with because of the inherency of the site. Like,
Great. Yeah.
what it was
So
about.
there you go.
That's what we're getting.
So that's what I'm getting at. So that's your experience with Bumble. Now, with my experience with Tinder, I've come to find that you can, as a man, you're expected to be direct. You're expected to understand the game in the sense that I'm going to message you things that aren't necessarily going to say exactly I'm interested in you. It's more of a very sidestepping, okay, I'm funny, I'm witty, I'm smart, I have a job, I got my shit together, I don't need you in my life, but I would like to go on a date with you and hang out with you.
I want to see what potential you have is the way you want to approach this, because they're doing the same thing. Without making it sound like an interview, it's a fucking interview.
That's what every date is, right?
Of course, but you don't make it seem like that, and you keep it as far from the surface possible of, like, I'm screening you out as far as a potential person that I'm going to either be around, be with, be whatever. And the easy part is getting a Tinder girl or, whatever. Getting going from app to texting to a date. The hard part is, whether you fuck them on the date or not, it's from first date to second date. Because talking to girls, the match is one thing, like, whatever. You get the match, you talk to them, and then you progress into the date. You actually meet up. Like, that's all the easy part, especially for me. And it's the second date all right, this is like going well, we're having fun with each other or not. I mean, it's the, build on what that first date builds into.
Sure.
And I know that you guys are playing a different game than I am, and you guys are having, you guys are more short-term than I am. But, like, I can keep a Bumbler girl around for months and still never commit to it. See, it's that screening process from first, second, third date of what is this becoming, or is this becoming something, which is a question you really want to avoid. So, you can build on these things, and what I find is that girls on Tinder and those short-term hookup apps are all about that first date. I have more fucks on first dates with Tinder girls, whereas on a Bumble girl, I will stop that. I will, it'll end early, whatever. Like, yeah. I don't need to have, like,
dude.
My thing is, I don't need to fuck a girl for it to be a good date.
So where I'm going with this is breaking it down to, this is Bumble, this is Tinder, this is OkCupid, or whatever dating site, Plenty of Fish, doesn't matter.
Christian Mink.
And narrow it down. I've never actually done Christian Mink.
Farmers meet, black people meet.
I'm just trying to get us to speak
White
from our experience what works. So on Tinder, though, what I find works is you have to be very direct, but also very nonchalant. It's like,
oh, I don't need you.
It's like, yes.
But at the same time, I can have a date with you.
I don't need you. I have plenty of other girls that are interested in me right now. If you're interested in a date, let's do a date. And that's the attitude I find works very well, because you're dealing with minimum amounts of information. I've gone from...
But your job is to extract that information.
Yes. I've gone from... And that even comes out on the date. I've gone from matching with someone to literally maybe 5 or 7 messages back and forth to the date. You get the number, goes straight to the date. And from there, then you bang. It's literally that.
See, but then when you play that short of a game, like, you play that putt-putt game, and, you could be 3 or 4 strokes away from the hole at that point, which is fine if you're trying to play that. But you also set yourself up for the risk of, you get to that date after that 5 to 7 messages, and you text a little bit, but you have no idea what they are, what their character's like, what their sense of humor is like.
But
you get to that date, and it could be a total fucking flaw.
That's fine.
I mean, at that point, you've kind of dedicated to where you're at. You'll figure that out on the date, like on the fly.
But what I'm saying is that date can fall on its ass.
Dude, you know
when
what?
you play that short of a game.
And it's fine if it does.
Oh, it's totally fine,
think that's
but do you want to be in that position?
I think that's good
Trevor,
experience.
do you know what we're getting to ultimately here is enterprise rent-a-car. That's what the medium that you've met them on dictates so much about the next few steps. It's absurd. And Trevor and I don't think you were there for this. We talked about Trevor went and picked up his rent-a-car, talked about flirting with this girl and how well it went and how smoothly it was absurdly smooth and easy to get this girl and to get her number and get her interested. He met her at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, which is who the fuck meets someone like that? Like, she was working, granted, but she's gonna have that justification to herself.
Working girl, eh?
She's gonna have that justification to herself and her friends. It's like she hates telling her friends, "Oh, I met this dude on Tinder." It feels
I picked him up at Enterprise, and we had a really nice conversation.
And he was charming and good looking. She would so much rather tell that story to her friends and her parents and to herself than Tinder and Bumble.
Yeah.
That's why Enterprise Rent-A-Car is such a great metaphor for all this. It's ultimately that's what you want. She's in the bag from the minute you're laying all the same charm that you are on Tinder and Bumble. You just got to react a little quicker.
And it's all in person, face to face from the get go.
Right, but this comes all like even to the bars. Like, girls don't want to tell themselves and their friends, we were drunk and we met at the bars. They want to say, they want to have that. They want to have that. I was sober. I was in an innocent place, and he came in.
Plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability is the ultimate umbrella on this.
It's huge.
And when they're at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and you just show that is all of the plausible deniability for them. And they walk away looking good and feeling good, and
because their knight in shining armor just showed up to rent a car.
That's ultimately what these women want.
And he picked me up in my checkout
is a story. They want a story of how you met them.
Well, yes. And it's not just the story or having a good story. It's having a story that didn't involve them doing something that could be socially unacceptable or like kind of like, oh, we met on Tinder. This girl that I've been sleeping with for like 4 months, I was on that a couple of podcasts ago, like, that was here.
Susan.
Susan. Susan, like, 17. It's like Johnny 5, but, like, she just, like, she never once told her parents, and I never once told my parents or anybody about where we met.
Fuck,
because
tell their parents about anything.
Oh, because we met each other's parents. And at no point did, we met each other on fucking Bumble came out. Because nobody actually wants to own up to that. Nobody wants to say, I met them on insert dating app here.
I think that'll change eventually.
Oh, it will, and it's come miles.
The next generation.
I think
it's this generation.
I think they won't give a fuck.
But I'm saying that
I hope they don't.
That little bit of stigma still exists. It's waning, but it's still there, especially for the old school parents.
Let's think about why it does. It's funny because I think part of it is we're using technology now to get sex. And I don't think, and people are not proud of it for whatever reason, but I seriously embrace it. Unless the girl, like, people be like, where did you meet? Sometimes I just let the girl answer. Because if she answers like, oh, we just met through a friend or whatever, like, that's fine. I don't really care. But if people are asking me directly, I'll tell them straight. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I think technology is leading now to a point where we can, and it's been before Tinder and Bumble, whatever. People were using Facebook for that.
It was Craigslist and Facebook.
Craigslist, whatever. As soon as the internet emerged, people were trying to fuck using the internet, no doubt. So once we cross that barrier, people will be more comfortable with it, which is great. I think it's great. I've heard of people meeting on games. Like, literally, they've met through, like, a chess game online or something like that. You know, like, it's silly how
Xbox
how
Live,
we use that and pretend.
People were trying to fuck each other on
exactly.
it.
But here's the thing. It's like, you're talking about, you guys never meet anybody's parents. At no point do a parent, like, does anybody's parent want to hear that you met them online? Like, there's still a faux pas to a different generation there that, like, you guys don't see.
That's our parents' generation, right? So they don't
but
like approve
when you
of it or
introduce
whatever.
them to your parents or their parents, like, that introduction's there. You're missing the point of when you are introduced to somebody who didn't grow up with that or doesn't understand that or still has that faux pas around that, they're still stuck with that. They want to hear that you met them in the hallway when you picked up their books because they dropped them and he was so sweet and nice and charming. They don't want to hear jack shit about Tinder or Bumble.
Yeah.
But what you're, like, purposely working around and what you're, I don't want to say you're missing it, but I guess you don't have the exposure is that when you actually meet somebody's parents, you really want to downplay the fact of where you met.
That's this generation.
All right,
anyway, this versus parents. We're way off track.
We're way off track. Okay, actually, we're over time too, so I think we should stop.